Okay. Okay, so that actually wasn't my some of my fears of this some of my fears for this quest were assuaged a little bit. Holding on. Track job. Holding on. The whole time I was flat on my digital A in Mikoshi, Carey was out there forging his glittering solo career. He'd be real effing chill after all these years, right? He'd better be real effing chill after all these years, right? But something tells me deep down he's still the same. Anyway, come on, guys, gonna stuff himself when he sees me. Okay. So, yeah, this whole whoa, it's almost sheesh. Everything is kind of woozy. Okay, so sure, I'll be in Johnny's car. Might as well, since we're going to continue seeing his old bandmates. So, so here's something I wanted to share my thoughts about this, because I wanted to wait until after this side quest was over, because I wanted to see what would happen in the side quest before I start, formulating my opinions and thoughts of it. So I had some fears going into this particular scene, because as you know, I had my reservations for starting this, given how Johnny behaved the last time he took over my body. And I know that he pretty much did behave himself this time. He did behave himself this time, but Johnny never really gave V any reason to trust, to trust him a second time, to be in his better behavior this time, especially since Johnny never apologized to V. He never said he was sorry about deceiving V or not being completely open and honest to V about what he was planning on doing when he took over his body the first time, because clearly V was upset at him about it, and Johnny just kind of blew it off and just swept it under the rug like he always does. He showed zero remorse. He showed zero respect to V and his feelings and concerns and empathy. That's my biggest gripe about Johnny, is his lack of empathy, towards V's feelings. And he did very little to attempt to salvage what little trust V already had with him. And so why would V trust Johnny into taking over his body a second time? But I've already talked about that aspect of it. The thing I wanted to talk about for this specific side quest is that, again, I'm trying not to give too many spoilers, but at this point I feel like the only way for me to explain what I'm talking about is to say that this quest was necessary in order for me to unlock a gay romance. It was necessary for me to unlock a same-gender male-male romance for my male V. And so, going into this, I will say that I think the whole premise of this side quest is cute. I like the idea of Johnny. He is trying to get a second chance with Rogue, but he's basically a ghost inside of V's head, and he's asking V for a favor. Do him a solid and let him take over his body just for one night, just for one night, so that he can spend some final times with Rogue and be with her and ask for forgiveness. But there's there's an ulterior motive to that. Ideally, it would be nice for him to ask V, for this night, just so that he can spend time with Rogue. Even if it's just for a moment, even if it's just to watch a movie with her, you know, just to spend one last time, because it might be the last time with her, and not expect anything else, like not expect anything beyond that, whether it's forgiveness, whether it's to be intimate, like that those things I think of course would be great for him, but that should not be his main motivation. And it seemed like for Johnny, he was disappointed. To him, the definition of that didn't go well at all, or his definition of that date was a failure, was basically A, Rogue wasn't able to forgive me, and B, I didn't get a chance to get into her pants. Like, I'd like to believe that the former, having her forgive him, was more important. I'd like to believe that was more important than the latter. But still, he seems to be very ungrateful, because I think many people would be more than satisfied to just be able to spend a few seconds. A dead person, a ghost of a person, would be satisfied just to spend a few seconds just spending time with a person, and and that would be enough for them. It reminds me of the movie Ghost, with Whoopi Goldberg and Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. It's similar to that scene in Ghost. Trying again not to spoil it for you guys, but it's a fairly classic old movie. There's a part where the ghost of Patrick Swayze wants to have a moment with Molly. And actually, no, he wasn't even... Patrick Swayze's character didn't even ask. Like, Whoopi Goldberg, who is basically the psychic who's been talking to Patrick Swayze, Whoopi Goldberg offered it. Like, she was the one who initiated it. She offered it to Patrick Swayze's character. Sam is his name. She offered Sam, okay, you can use my body to have an intimate moment with your wife. In this case, it was just like a couple minutes of them dancing together. So that in itself makes that situation a bit different, because, this wasn't Sam requesting of it. This was somebody else offering it to him, to say, all right, you can take over my body just for a moment, just to dance, just to have a dance with your wife, which I think is really touching. And the other reason why that's a bit different, that situation is a lot different, is because by that point, even though Sam and Ida Mae Brown is Whoopi Goldberg's character name, even though Sam and Oda Mae Brown started off on the wrong foot, like they were not fast BFFs at the very beginning, much like V and Johnny weren't fast BFFs at the beginning either. But over time, you could see the bond forming between the two of them. You could see this friendship forming between the two of them. You could see this respect forming between the two of them. Actual character development in their relationship was happening. You could see that they were becoming, important to each other. I was not seeing that with Johnny and V. It felt like the game really took its time. It slogged to take its time to try to get V and Johnny to the point where they formed this bond. And I still am not buying that they have it right now, because it seemed like they kind of like shoved all of that development, the development that Sam and Oda Mae Brown had in the movie Ghost, felt natural. It happened gradually over time. With V and Johnny, it didn't happen gradually or naturally over time to me. It just kind of conveniently happened again at the turning point when V like almost died. And then at that point, Johnny was like, oh, I'm having second thoughts and I'm having a few regrets of how I treated you before and all that good stuff. And now we're supposed to be super cool enough for V to just forget about really him being disrespected and violated the first time that Johnny took his over his body. He's just supposed to like be cool with that, because I think that would still take time. I think that once you lose somebody's trust like that, you need to do more. Like it needs to take more time, to build that trust back. I think that's the way that how I operate. Is I can be very naive, and I put my blind faith in a lot of people, and I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. So I am very easy to trust people initially, but once you violate or abuse that trust, it is crazy hard to earn that back with me. Crazy hard. So, getting your foot in the door with me in terms of trust is super easy. But the moment that you abuse that, getting back through the door is probably harder with me than most. So that's just the way that me and my V operate. So, so getting back to this, my fear was that if we were going to, again, give Johnny our body, I felt that it was going to be essentially a cutscene where I couldn't choose anything, where I was just a helpless bystander who was just seeing what was happening without having any control whatsoever, which is what happened before. But in this one, we were actually given, some choices in how to respond to Rogue. And possibly because V maybe subconsciously, at minimum, had some say into how, had some pull, I think, and some say as to how Johnny was going to behave during this date. And my fear was that I would be railroaded into essentially getting like really, really intimate with Rogue, and ultimately, and ultimately sleeping with her, like ultimately having sex with her, which I think is very strange to me, because if that were the case, if we were being railroaded and I was not given an option otherwise, it would feel really weird for me to have, a prerequisite for my gay V to have a gay romance in this game. A prerequisite for him would be to be forced into a situation where he had to have sex with a woman. Like, do you kind of see where I'm getting at here? That to me feels really strange and odd. That the only way that a gay V can have a gay romance is you have to go through this thing and have sex with a woman. Now, I'm gonna back up and say that if V did establish a deep friendship with Johnny, if they did establish a rapport and a respect for each other, and they were in a situation where V does care for Johnny and they bonded well, very similarly to Oda Mae Brown and Sam did in Ghost, I think that V would be open to allowing Johnny to do that. I think he would be open to giving Johnny the consent. See, that's the biggest thing, is giving him the consent to do that. Because I'd like to believe that if I was in V's situation and I had Johnny in my head, and if Johnny was not a total D-bag to me, and we actually came to an understanding, I would recognize this date as being really sweet, and I would recognize this date as being a beautiful gift that I could give to my friend, allow him to essentially use my body, to have one final moment with somebody that he wished that he probably cared deeply about and wished that he had another chance with, or at least was able to repair burned bridges with. I could be convinced to do that. But if I wasn't convinced to do that, if this was a situation where the problem is if V and Johnny are not in that situation, and the game railroaded, railroaded them into having sex with a woman as a gay man. Yes, it's not really V making love to Rogue, it's Johnny. Like, at least Johnny's consciousness doing it. But at the end of the day, it's still V's body. Like, at the end of the day, it's still V's body. And one could argue that would be something that is non-consensual. And therefore, because it's non-consensual, it's basically, it's not exactly rape. It's because here the situation just makes it very weird with Johnny's consciousness in V's head, but it's in that similar vein to me, and it just wouldn't sit well to me, to force V into that, especially when it's not consensual, when V is not here giving him the consent to do that, and in order to have that consent, they need to have that established bond, which I don't think they have. So, as much as I'm sure many gamers and many players, by this point, perhaps sympathize with Johnny enough to allow him this chance with Rogue, I'm being 100% honest. Me and my V just don't feel right about it. It just doesn't sit well with us. It doesn't feel comfortable with us. And so, thank you to the developers for making that optional. I am hoping, though, that the consequences of that isn't going to be dire. I'm sure that it's going to, affect probably some of the story outcome, maybe some of the epilogue. It might affect some of the epilogue, whether or not, Johnny was able to have some sort of rekindled understanding or rekindled relationship with Rogue. And I'm hoping I'm hoping we're not punished for this. I'm hoping we're not punished because I'm trying to stick to my guns and, trying to role play V in the way that I envision him as a character. So my apologies if you guys are disappointed that Johnny wasn't able to essentially fully reestablish that deep connection with Rogue that maybe he wanted. But I don't think that it works in this situation. I don't think it works with this V. But maybe it'll work for the next V. And to be fair, like I said, even though my V, felt that karma finally took its toll, or, Johnny's luck with his charm, his being able to rely on and depend on his charm to get what he wants, ran out. And he's getting, payback for it, even though that is how V feels about this situation. He still wasn't going to kick him while he's down. He still was going to be as, supportive of a friend as possible without, enabling him and condoning some of the rotten things that V did to him. V's still trying to be as solid of a person as he possibly can throughout this. So yeah, sorry about again that big tangent, but it's just something that I think is a perspective as a gay man, as a gay player who has a gay character in this game. It's a perspective that I don't know very many Let's Players would express. And I think that some of the things that I said hopefully is something that makes you think. Maybe it'll make you think, whether you're gay or you're straight or anything in between. Hopefully I said something that that makes you think about something that you maybe would not have thought about before. And I just feel I also would find this really interesting if Johnny was actually Janie, if Johnny was a woman and Rogue was a man, and there was this situation where Johnny was asking V, regardless of whether V was male or female or identified as male or female, Janie would ask V, hey, can I use your body to have a date with male Rogue? And then that opened up the opportunity for essentially your V to sleep with male Rogue. I'm wondering how many gamers would feel knowing that a good number of people who play games like Cyberpunk, a good percentage of them are straight men, and maybe would be, playing initially at least a straight V, maybe a straight male V. I'm curious, like how they would react to that. Would they allow themselves? Would your typical, I use that loosely, would a typical straight male gamer with a straight male V, how would they react to this point in the game if they were choosing between having sex basically with a male Rogue or not? I'm curious about that. Unfortunately, it feels like me as a player, I am perfectly comfortable. I'm perfectly comfortable with heterosexual sex, and like witnessing such acts in movies or in video games, because I think that it's a beautiful thing if you actually are making love to somebody. I think it's a beautiful thing, whether it's heterosexual, whether it's homosexual love or anything in between. It's a beautiful thing, and I have no problem experiencing and witnessing that. But I don't know if the same can be said for most straight players. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too pessimistic about that. Maybe I'm not being optimistic enough about it. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I'm just guessing. I'm just curious what everybody's thoughts are about that. Because I do believe there is still a double standard. And as a gay person, from the gay perspective, for me, it just I've come to accept it, but it doesn't feel equal. I've accepted it, but it doesn't feel equal. So, all right. I'm sure I'm in a great state to drive right now. Fantastic state to drive right now. Oh, but wait, there's a tarot card. How did I miss that? 35 meters, man. It's right here. Right here. Apparently behind this. The Lovers. Oh, that makes sense. Wow, that's an interesting depiction of the Lovers. The Lovers is the card of dichotomies. It points to the contradictions that clash within each of us, and of the challenge of striking a balance between extremes. The Lovers is also the card of dilemmas, like the fool who stands at the crossroads unable to make his choice. I think that's kind of fitting, actually. Rachel Kashish?
Hey, it's Rachel.
Oh, yeah, you.
Passion Project, BD.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Joshua.
What's up?
Yeah.
We've got a crisis on our hands.
What?
Really use your help. Stevenson
What?
had a breakdown. Nothing
What?
Shrink can do about it. Can you come here to the studio just to talk to him?
Okay. This is absolutely.
Fine, sure. On my way.
This is my high priority now.
He said he'll come.
Yes.
Thanks, B.
Hang on, Joshua. Okay. Never mind. They won't go when I go. Okay, never mind. This is my high priority right now. As much as I would love to continue on in the other quest line, Joshua right now is of immediate importance. Especially based on that phone call. I do not want to delay. Okay. Is there... It looks like this is relatively close. Yeah, this I definitely wanted to see it to the end. Oh man, I'm still shaking like a storm. Glam now. The mag for those who love this for themselves. Heard about the latest and greatest braindance diet? Our prediction, 2078's hottest new trend. BD diet advocate and world-beloved fashionista. Amber Daisy is no stranger to us at Glam. In an exclusive interview, she shared her secrets and stories about the journey her body has been on. Amber has been keeping her intake of synth and organic products to a bare minimum over the past several months, and instead only experiences her meals through BDs. With a properly tuned BD, Amber says she dives in with a growling stomach, but comes out virtue feeling like she just finished binging at a banquet. Really now? Can we hope to see Amber back in America to promote this latest craze? We're keeping our fingers crossed. That's interesting. Can it actually make you feel satisfied? I guess it could if... because your body still physically needs to be nourished. So maybe if... I guess what it is you still stick with, you stick with with whatever diet you're trying to ideally be on, whether it's like a diet of, less cholesterol, a diet of more vegetables and fruits and more grains or whatever, but you supplement that because you're still getting all the nutrients and the sustenance that your body needs, but this would be something that you would do on top of that to, I guess, trick your senses into thinking that you've eaten all this other food that are probably not as ideal for your diet, like fatty foods or junk food or whatever, but you come out feeling satisfied and your body still gets all the nutrients and sustenance that it needs. That would be really cool. I didn't get a chance to actually read whatever that was. Oh, I didn't get a chance to actually read what that was. Well, maybe I'll get it again. That was my bad. Who is Dr. Paradox? Is this gonna go for a while? I hope it doesn't. Nightlife, drinking, debauchery. Okay, this is gonna be a problem. Let me save this and try to reload. I'm wondering if this is a bug. Because if it's a bug and that thing is purposely, my vision is going haywire, then that's like, okay, good. Okay, good. I don't know what was going on, but I was like, that dizziness was lasting quite a bit too long. Where am I? Oh, I'm taking the elevator. Coach Fred. Hey, another fight just landed in the schedule. It's in Pacifica, generating huge buzz, not to mention huge cash. I know you can't resist. Yeah, I'm gonna get to that later. Right now, I've got more pressing matters. Fine, I'll use the car.